Rico Santos grew up in the busy streets of Manila, where music was his only escape from a life of struggle. His father, a tricycle driver who adored Elvis Presley, used to play old records at night, telling him, "Son, dreams don't die if you sing them loud enough." When his father passed away, those words became Rico's heartbeat. Every evening, he sang on the streets, his voice echoing through the narrow alleys, sounding hauntingly like Elvis himself. Some people laughed, others threw coins, but one night, a tourist recorded his performance and uploaded it online. Days later, his life changed forever. An email arrived, an invitation to audition for America's Got Talent in Los Angeles. Rico could hardly believe it. He sold his old guitar, borrowed a jacket from a friend, and boarded a plane for the first time in his life. As he looked out the window, tears filled his eyes. "This one's for you, Papa," he whispered. When he finally stood on the grand AGT stage, bright lights blinding him and Simon Cowell watching with that signature stare, fear almost froze his voice. But then, he remembered his father's words. Rico closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. The crowd went silent, then erupted in applause as Simon's jaw dropped in shock. It was as if Elvis had returned through a Filipino soul, and in that moment, Rico knew, his father's dream had finally come true. The moment Rico finished his last note, the entire auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. People stood, cheering and crying as golden confetti began to rain from above. Simon Cowell, usually hard to impress, sat speechless for a few seconds before slowly standing up, clapping with a look of disbelief. "That," he said finally, "was pure magic." Rico's hands trembled as he stared at the crowd, overwhelmed by emotion. He had dreamed of this moment his whole life, but never imagined it would feel this powerful. Backstage, the other contestants hugged him, telling him he had just made history. When Terry Crews handed him the Golden Buzzer trophy, Rico's eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe this is real," he said, his voice shaking. "I just wanted my father to hear me one last time." His audition video spread across the internet overnight, melting hearts in both the USA and the Philippines. People called him the Filipino Elvis, praising not only his voice but his humility. Thousands messaged him saying his story gave them courage to chase their own dreams. Sitting in his small Los Angeles apartment later that night, Rico looked at a photo of his father and whispered, "We did it, Papa. The world finally heard us." The city lights outside glimmered like stars, and for the first time, Rico felt truly free. His song had not just reached people's ears, but touched their hearts across oceans. Weeks after his unforgettable audition, Rico's life transformed in ways he had never imagined. News outlets across the USA and the Philippines couldn't stop talking about the Filipino Elvis. Interviews, TV appearances, and fan messages flooded in from all over the world. Yet, amid the sudden fame, Rico remained humble. He still called his mother every night, sending her small amounts of money from his first earnings. "Mama," he'd say softly, "we're finally okay." Despite the bright lights and cameras, Rico's heart stayed grounded in the streets of Manila, where his dream began. One day, during a charity event in Los Angeles, he spotted a young boy singing on the sidewalk, his voice shaky but full of hope. Rico stopped, listened, and smiled, seeing himself in that child. Without hesitation, he approached, handed the boy his guitar, and said, "Never stop singing, no matter who listens." Cameras captured the emotional moment, and it quickly went viral. People were moved not just by Rico's talent but by his kindness and humility. When asked why he did it, he simply replied, "Someone once believed in me when no one else did. Now it's my turn." His words resonated deeply, reminding millions that true success isn't about fame or money, it's about giving back and keeping love alive through every song. That night, as he sang on stage again, the crowd's cheers felt different. They weren't just applauding his voice, they were celebrating his heart. Months passed, and Rico's journey continued to inspire millions. Invitations poured in from talk shows, concerts, and charities, but what mattered most to him was returning home to the Philippines. When he finally stepped off the plane in Manila, thousands of fans waited at the airport, waving flags and holding signs that read, "Welcome home, Filipino Elvis." Tears filled his eyes as he saw his mother in the crowd, clutching a worn photo of his late father. She embraced him tightly, whispering, "Your father would be so proud." Rico performed a free concert that night in Luneta Park, the same place he once sang for coins. As he sang, "Can't Help Falling in Love," the audience lit their phones, and a sea of lights shimmered like stars. But halfway through the song, Rico stopped singing and spoke to the crowd. "This isn't about sounding like Elvis," he said, his voice breaking. "It's about keeping dreams alive, no matter where you come from." The crowd cheered louder, many wiping tears from their eyes. At that moment, Rico realized his music had become more than just a tribute, it was a bridge connecting hearts from Manila to America. When he looked up at the night sky, he whispered softly, "Papa, we made it home." For the first time in years, the boy who once sang for survival now sang for hope, and the world sang along with him. A few days after his homecoming concert, Rico was invited to perform again on the AGT All-Stars stage in Los Angeles. This time, he wasn't the nervous dreamer from Manila, he was an artist representing millions who dared to hope. As he stood backstage, he noticed a janitor humming, "Love Me Tender." Rico smiled and began singing along. The man looked surprised, his eyes lighting up with joy. They sang together, their voices blending beautifully. When the performance ended, the janitor whispered, "You just made my day." Rico walked on stage moments later, carrying that simple moment in his heart. When the lights dimmed, he sang with a depth no one had ever heard before. His voice trembled with emotion, not from fear, but from gratitude. Simon Cowell leaned forward, visibly moved, and said afterward, "Rico, you don't just sing like Elvis, you carry the same soul." The audience erupted in cheers once again, some waving Philippine flags. Backstage, Rico quietly told the crew, "It's never just about the music. It's about reminding people they matter." That night, social media overflowed with messages like, "He healed my heart tonight," and "He sings with love, not ego." For Rico, that was the greatest reward. Not fame, not trophies, but knowing his voice had become a light for others, just as his father's love had once been for him. Years later, Rico's name became a symbol of hope around the world. From charity concerts in New York to street performances back in Manila, he used every stage to inspire others. He started a foundation to support underprivileged Filipino kids who loved music, giving them instruments, lessons, and a chance to dream like he once did. Reporters often asked what kept him humble despite his fame. He would smile and say, "Because I remember what it felt like to have nothing but a song." One quiet evening, Rico returned to the same street corner in Manila where his journey began. The city had changed, but the memories were alive. A young boy stood there singing softly, just as he once had. Rico listened, then joined in, their voices blending under the warm glow of the streetlight. People gathered, recording the heartwarming moment, unaware they were witnessing a full circle of destiny. When the song ended, Rico handed the boy a small microphone and whispered, "Now it's your turn." The child's eyes sparkled with wonder, and in that instant, Rico felt his father's spirit smiling down. As he walked away, he looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, Papa. The music never ends." His story wasn't just about sounding like Elvis anymore, it was about love, faith, and the power of one voice to change the world.